Welcome to another episode. My name is Leon Godwin. I am your Principal Cloud Evangelist. I'm here today to help you and guide you through Microsoft Fabric in terms of your data strategy. Now, that's a journey that I'm not best suited to guide you all the way on. So I am joined by my colleague, Dan Knott. So hi, Dan. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, Leon. Hello, everybody. I am Dan. I'm an enterprise architect here at Cloud Direct. Predominantly today we'll be talking about how Fabric can help your business, how it can integrate in your data strategy. So along the way, Leon and myself will be presenting. So it'll be good to get started.
Excellent. So this is broadly the outline that we're going to cover off. I'm going to open things up with the what, why, and how of Microsoft Fabric and how you can overcome some of the challenges and how that platform is suited to that. Then Dan's going to go and guide you through the business value. And Dan, to be honest, he's the main event here. Dan heads up our data practice and he's got huge amounts of experience in this space. So you're in very safe hands, at least with Dan. And I'll also guide you through the strategic elements when it comes to leveraging Fabric, specifically around your data. So I'll jump into it straight away. What is Microsoft Fabric? So Microsoft Fabric is kind of like Office 365, but for data. It helps you take you on pretty much your end-to-end journey with data. Now, I'm a massive AI nerd. And I find Fabric such a helpful platform to help me with those AI objectives. In my own time, I build dozens and dozens of AI applications, and Fabric, having that underpin it everything, massively enables me to deliver quality solutions as an outcome rather than this kind of piecemeal kind of approach. So it consists of elements like Data Factory, and I'll cover all these off in a little bit more detail. The Synapse products for engineering, for storage, for science, for analytics, for visualization capabilities, and automation activities. So here we have a sort of overview of those core elements along the top. So Data Factory is about connecting to your data. One of the really cool features is it doesn't necessarily require that you copy your data via Data Factory. It can just be a connector where it's almost like if you know the term symbolic link, which means it's possible to maintain a smaller footprint. Sometimes that's not appropriate. It depends on your scenario, but having that capability to help optimize those costs is really, really useful. So the data engineering, this is where you monkey with your data. This is where you want to transform your data. So if the data are in the wrong format, or you're connecting to a massive database with loads of tables, you don't need all the tables. You don't need all the columns in all those tables, and you might drop those. So there's if there's formatting issues or data quality issues, this is where you would deal with the transforming of that data. So what you move forward with is of the right quality. And I'm sure Dan will probably touch on things like medallion models of how you can sort of tier your data hierarchy in terms of the quality to meet the specific objectives. Data warehouse is effectively, it's underpinned by OneLake. It's effectively your OneDrive. Just like OneDrive can have videos and photos and documents, it's a giant skip where you can put pretty much any data type. It can be whole databases, it can be video files, structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data. It can all go in there. So it's kind of like your OneDrive for your business data, but infinitely scalable, far more performant. Then there's the data science. If you want to do things where you want to maybe turn this into models, you can go and do that. Likewise, you can get intelligence, real-time analytics out of your systems. That's particularly important for certain use cases. I'm going to touch on a use case that I think kind of useful to sort of bring this to life. And then you've got Power BI. That's all about visualizations. Underpinning all of these, you've got AI. So with their co-pilot capabilities, you're now able, and that's just getting more and more and more robust. I've actually found myself using the UI in terms of like manually monkeying with it far less, and I just talk to an AI and get it to go and do everything for me. So I just use that natural language, and I'm building data pipelines as much as I want. OneLake is the technology underpins that storage component, and then Purview is the governance platform that can see the data and check it for compliance. But also it can plug into a whole variety of existing tools that you might have. So it's very extensible. So if you're using, NVIDIA have got a whole bunch of technologies in terms of their torch and what have you. It can go and plug into that. Teradata. There's a variety, and this list, I can't remember exactly what the number of plugins are, but it's way north of 200. So Esri, I was chatting with the council the other day. They use Esri for their geospatial information for our street assets. That's the sort of thing that you can go and pull into here. So when it comes to why this platform is so good and why I'm a huge fan of it, especially because it services my core passion, which is AI. I use AI to control the platform, but really I'm using the data that it brings out at the end to deliver a quality AI outcomes. It's the old adage, rubbish in, rubbish out. By having this pipeline that filters out the rubbish, provides me the insights, stores that information, I can then use that triage data to deliver better outcomes. So in terms of the platform itself, there's lots of compelling reasons to go and use this platform. I'm not going to go into details here. You can rewatch this video. It's going to be live, and I'm sure if you want the slides, we're happy to go and share them as well. So if you think about Fabric, it's a storage kind of centric. It's governed, so it's underpinned. Every item of data can be tagged and controlled and known and understood, and that helps you. I think second on the list of concerns with organizations adopting an AI strategy sits around that sort of governance piece. So having that kind of storage platform and that integration with the Purview suite of tools gives you that kind of insights, and it helps democratize data. I'll tell you what I mean by that in a moment. So having that kind of broad capabilities, it's really touching on kind of 3 or 4 of the largest concerns with organizations that might be adopting AI. I'm obviously biased towards AI. Dan will I'll talk you through other scenarios. So one of the reasons why this is a massive product is it's being used by lots and lots of organizations. You're in very, very safe hands, and it's one of the fastest growing products within the Microsoft suite. Another thing that's anecdotally interesting is there is people are moving away from using Microsoft are deprecating some of the Power BI SKUs in favor of delivering them via Fabric. I mention this because the investment is going through Fabric rather than those individual components. Once upon a time, you would buy Excel, whereas now you would buy 365. It's the same kind of principle. That's the direction of travel. That's the direction of investment from Microsoft. It's being used by everybody. 97% of the Fortune 500 companies use it. 6.5 million Power BI developers use that. So it's a really useful, and if you look at this data point, that's over a year old. It is growing rapidly, and the enhancements that are available are profound. So let's bring this to life a little bit. So what are some of the business challenges? Siloed data is a big one. You can have many copies of your data residing in different places. I worked for a large charity, discovered that they had 13 copies of the same data, including backups of backups. Massively inefficient. By centralizing this, you deliver more control. It doesn't necessarily mean a copy. It can be a link, but it could also be a copy. But centralizing that gives you that control and visibility from a a SaaS-based platform. Organizations struggle with interoperability. How does your data flows work between payroll and HR? Are they efficient? Are they inefficient? And how do those data silos interact with each other? Dan and I were on a call with a customer the other day that in the national health sector who have a system or a number of systems that are very legacy in nature, don't have APIs, and so their interoperability was basically zero. So we had to look at alternatives, methods to try to solve for that. And then having disparate data in multiple locations can expose you to risk. And these are some of the concerns that are playing out within organizations. The whole idea of Fabric is to gain centralized insights into your data, whether that be employee-related data, customer, product, operations, whatever your data points may be. Bringing in and actually seeing data as a single asset is a step change, a cultural change, but doing so can deliver infinitely more advantages. There are a number of scenarios where the relationship and impact between something going on in one part of the organization negatively impacts another part of the organization, but that whole visibility and cause and effect isn't necessarily clear. And the opportunities to then deliver efficiencies, it's like command and control. When you've got full visibility of a landscape, you can make better decisions. And then because it is being ever more integrated with AI as a set of tooling, I'm talking about the platforms AI, 87% of customers say they believe AI will give them a competitive advantage. What I see in terms of using this tool to provide your data, at the end of the day, from an AI perspective, AI is an engine and it runs on fuel, and you don't want sand in your fuel. You want quality data. Having a platform that can deliver that is a modern data analytics platform is key, and Fabric is that component. And there is a general push, and I'm kind of inundated with people that are interested in AI, from personal accelerators like Copilot to departmental and bespoke solutions that can deliver real transformative change. So what we see is organizations going from isolated components, payroll, HR, sales, marketing, whatever it may be, that might be on a SQL server and it's payroll data and it's nothing else. And anything else, if they do want to deliver any AI, it's kind of like a bolt-on rather than a holistic view. Whereas if you can transform into seeing all your data assets and expose that to an AI that exists within Fabric, you get much, much better outcomes. And that's the general move of a modern data platform. You unify your data. You have AI as kind of an assistant to help you maximize the value out of your data. One of the other things is the rate of change within Fabric is profound. They are constantly providing updates, and most recently, the AI updates have been significant. So you're in very safe hands, and there's actually roadmap information available from the links provided there. So also known as Microsoft/Fabric Roadmap. That's where you can go and see what's coming up in the future. Lots of exciting things are going on in that space. So it's a complete analytics platform. It's a lake-centric approach. By lake-centric, it means it's open. It means it's very interoperable with other tools that you might have. It's about enabling many, many people within your organization. There can be data experts that will use this, but there will also be business users that will consume it. So there are many people, whether it be at the C-suite, whether it be data professionals, or whether it be business users, they will all have elements of Fabric that they're interested, and obviously the pushing the AI element. I'm going to speed up because I'm just conscious of time, and I'm going to run you through a scenario. So these are the sort of UI elements where you can kind of see all your data assets in one place, and these are the kind of roles that might be interested in different elements of Fabric. So if I bring this to life and say, let's take a legal firm. I'm sure there's some legal organizations in the audience now thinking, so what? Let me try and bring this to life for you. Let's say you connected to court records. There are public APIs available. There are lots of different data repositories that you have and are publicly available through legal APIs. You have contract documents, you have client communication documents, you have billing documents. You can bring all that centrally. And then without harming that production data, you can then clean and remove the data that's irrelevant for you for your ultimate outcome. Then it comes to data warehousing. You would store that, and you may build multiple different repositories within that warehouse, where you might have a case law repository, you have client matters repository, legal research, billing is expensive, and precedent's a big one. It's actually something I'm building as a little side project connecting to one of the government APIs. And then the idea is, when you have all that information and you use data science, you can start particularly predicting using machine learning models to predict the outcomes of cases, to gain understand the relevant insights which can help accelerate your pre-trial activities. And you can discuss these things using natural language processing. You can also use real-time intelligence, so you can get updates, understanding what's changed, what's moved, what's the information, what's going on in the general legal marketplace. You can pull all that information in and get that real-time intelligence. And then you can turn around and visualize your data in terms of Power BI. You could do things like create a bunch of different services on top of this. So you can have your Power BI reports and what have you, but when you've got all these components, if you think about, right, okay, I've got all this end to end, I've got governance throughout the life cycle of my data's life cycle with Purview. Then what you can do is you can layer in maybe a legal professional interface. Maybe that's something that sits in Microsoft Teams and allows you to chat organically with an AI powered capability. So you go and chat with your data. Lawbot, I've built one. It could be a customer portal where customers can go and get insights, pay their bills, have questions, and an AI chatbot, an AI virtual lawyer could be available there to provide them a better customer experience. That could also be for onboarding clients. So there are many different scenarios where you could grab your data, deliver better outcomes with AI. And so the last thing I'm going to touch on before I hand over to Dan is around the challenges that organizations face, which is that kind of data siloed approach. That's a very, very common, and it's the most typical paradigm out there. But having Fabric allows you to break that paradigm, connect to multiple data sources, so it's connected and can see everything, possibly copy everything, possibly not, but it's got visibility of everything. And then because it's got visibility, you get lots of other advantages as well. Advantages of a much more performant platform, highly scalable, very enterprise class in its performance with Fabric. You can also, because you've now got your Fabric at the heart of what you do, people cherish their data. They think, I really want to, I value my data, I don't want to lose it. So they can centralize that data, and they can go and deliver Purview to go and provide that ability to go and cherish their data. And then the other thing is the complexity of data analytics. It is complicated. These are things that professionals, it's hard work. I can't do it. Actually, I can do it now because I've got AI to go and help me. So whilst I may be a functioning idiot and I can go and do profoundly exciting things, it's made possible by the AI capabilities within those tools. So there are lots of different advantages. So I'm just going to sort of touch on with Dan a second. Dan, are you seeing any other challenges that I've not touched on here in terms of business challenges and obstacles that organizations might see?
Mostly around adoption as well. So obviously one of the key aspects is platform's adoption. So obviously these are significant challenges that we're seeing out in different industries as well. Data silos in particularly is probably the top one, I'd say. Like you've mentioned, legacy systems and the integration aspect. But yeah, adoption is definitely underpinned here as well. So it's probably one of the biggest challenges, getting data embedded into processes, the ways of which data is used. But that, like you say there as well, at the very start of this session, data quality, rubbish in, rubbish out is a very key aspect. So governance is probably, the most important of them all, because that leads to success in other areas as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, if you want to take over, and I think you've got some slides to go and present, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Leon. So yeah, I've got 3 sessions, and we're going to sort of touch on the first one being, in terms of the business value and where Microsoft Fabric can add benefit. I've listed 6 key sort of points here, and it starts off with number 1, really. And is this also is adoption that I was sort of mentioning just before, having that accurate data where you can make informed decisions. Reliable data is very key to driving success around Fabric. Recently, there was a study undertaken by Forrester around the economic impact of Microsoft Fabric in businesses. And one of the key stats on this was using, Azure Data Factory, so that's pipelines within that, and obviously the addition of Copilot that's embedded certain license points. There was an increased data engineering productivity of around 25%. So time to value is very much increased. Innovation as well, being able to bring that data, give the data to analysts, to end users to interrogate, increasing that data availability, also subsequently increases productivity. They've got access to data. They no longer need to, have a downstream trend of exporting that data, merging that data, cleansing that data. That's already done. It's presented, it's usable, and they can start to interrogate using self-serve analytic tools like Power BI. Obviously, from there, because you've got trusted data, you've got the data availability, users are interrogating and can look at performance. Business performance obviously has a impact there as well, in the sense of you start to understand areas where there can be improvement, what's not going so well, where new products and services can come in. So again, it plays into that innovation aspect as well. One of the key statistics from the Forrester research recently was up to 379% in terms of the return on investment. So in terms of implementing tools like within Fabric space, and Leon's touched on them on this morning, it's very clear to see that they can have a significant impact, and with the right use cases, which we'll sort of touch on in terms of how we identify use cases shortly, we can really get success in embedding Fabric into our business. And also the investment doesn't just come from the tools, it also comes from decommissioning legacy technology. Maybe that's costed with a different licensing model, on-premise services that can be decommissioned. So again, there's a combination of factors that go into helping with the ROI, as it were. And then obviously that sort of comes into the cost reduction as well. So streamlining that architecture. Previous encounters with, say, Synapse and other architecture patterns would have included different services all interlinked and obviously joined up to try and create a data analytics platform, as it were. This is all under one hood, as it were. So it's a SaaS-based product, an easier licensing model, and obviously from a cost reduction as well. Using things like reserved instances can really save money for the business in terms of up to 40% on a 1-year reserved. What I will touch on as well, not only just the key outcomes, but sort of key aspects around the core of Microsoft Fabric. We've heard today around unified and integrated data solution. So it brings all those tools together. We've got that one lake where that's capable of ingesting data from all various sources, using shortcuts and mirrors as well. And mirroring is capabilities to bring in data that doesn't reside in, say, the Azure tenancy. It could be, from various web providers as well, like Amazon, bringing that data in, storing that data in one lake, and then using that for different use cases, using that for different personas and workloads within data. So that might be AI workloads, that might be analytical workloads, reporting workloads. Again, there's various workloads that we can bring into play within Microsoft Fabric. We've got data governance embedded in with Purview, so we can trust and secure this data from when it's landed into the one lake. Again, bringing that security up to ensure that those who need to see the data have access to that data. It's also trusted. We know where that data is coming from. We know who's got access to that data, classifying our data assets, and also building up that business glossary. So when I've got access to, say, self-serve tools within Power BI, I understand the data. I know what those definitions and metrics mean when I'm analyzing data in reporting tools. AI readiness as well. Leon's already touched on this previously. Really touching on that ability to get data in, have that trusted data, because AI it isn't useful if it doesn't have the right data. So this really underpins the success of AI and helping your business get AI ready. And that might be using Copilot for productivity within Fabric, or that might also be embedding AI applications like ChatGPT, for instance, or chatbots, and using AI downstream post, obviously bringing that data and modeling that. One of the key benefits as well with Microsoft Fabric, it's very performant, scalable, and obviously offers the reliability around that. So again, depends on the scale and where you want to use and how you plan to use data within your organization. You can obviously have the right SKU to for now, but also you can scale that very easily to increase performance as and when you need it to meet the business needs. In terms of privacy and security, trusted data is very key, and always, one of the big challenges we often see when we're talking to customers is data quality, trust in data, and having that reliable data. So understanding those data assets that you're bringing in, applying the right governance framework around that with the right business glossary, classifying those data assets helps instill trust and ensures reliability, and also protects sensitive data as well. In doing all of this, it enables us to, comply to regulation and also, look at where our data is stored. And obviously it helps and supports data loss prevention as well. So again, we can build out using Purview and instill aspects around security, compliance, and equally making sure that we've got the right access controls for audit and accountability around our data. OneLake in particular is probably a bit of a game changer in terms of bringing all the data into one area. Previously, it was very challenging at times to try and bring data from various, even if it wasn't in Azure, trying to bring that data into one centralized repository often required ETL processes to bring data in, loading and duplicating data from one area to another. With mirroring and shortcut as well, in particular, it stops that process. The data can stay where it is, but virtually it's as if it lives in Microsoft Fabric, and then you can consume that as if it was physically embedded in that OneLake. So again, very good in terms of time to value, reducing those complex ETL processes, and then obviously helps accelerate that innovation as well. We have the data, we can start to use it for AI and data science capabilities. We've got that faster time to insight, so we can then start drawing, action from Power BI reports, or we can model and transform that data with other data sources, and then having that sort of centralized view. So again, very key. And because it's all in one place, we can obviously, we basically can put it under lock and key, ensuring that we've got the right privacy and security rules in place to ensure that access is only granted to those who need it. Data integration, I've mentioned there with the mirroring shortcut, is probably the biggest game changer. This really does obviously drive data availability. It also supports real-time data analytics. So whether you're doing batch data loads from like once a day, every hour, half an hour, to those real-time data analytics where you're streaming off of IoT devices into Microsoft Fabric, and then you can decide to do operational reports, which would come down what we'd call the hot path, which is real-time insight versus we need to use this data, combine that data with other data sources, and then move that into a data warehouse where we might do operational analytical reporting off the back of that. In terms of processing large data sets, it has ability to process small, all the way through to large data sets. We've seen examples from Microsoft, large terabytes, files, etc., being processed efficiently, and obviously increasing that productivity. Ingesting that data into one centralized area allows the different teams around the business to have access to the data. Predominantly, they're going to need data from the same data source, the same data needs, but they just obviously analyze it in different ways and combine it with different data sets. So by doing this, it supports the cross-functional collaboration because everyone's looking at the same data, it's trusted and it's reliable, versus the whole, I'm looking at a different set of views versus to what you're looking at, and understanding whose data is correct and wrong. In terms of data science, we've heard about the AI readiness from again this morning. Predictive analytics embedded in Fabric is the capability to do data science. There's ML models that come out the box. So again, it's worth looking at them for a starter for 10. Depending on your maturity, you might have data scientists that want to do code first, or again, you can use tools such as what's embedded within Fabric to be low code, no code and start small and then obviously grow out that function as well. This really does sort of drive that sort of data-driven in sort of culture within the business, in consuming the data that we've got and then using like things like such as predictive forecast and predictive maintenance as an example, where we can start to forecast and look forward rather than look back as to what's happened. And we can also use it to underpin anomalies as well in the data to ensure that we've, if there's any sort of low points in the data, they can be explained and obviously focus as to potential reasons and validation as to scores around that. Analytics, again, very key aspect around that data-driven culture. It doesn't just happen with analytics. It obviously happens around, the trust in data, the use of tools, but having the ability to bring different data sets together, embedding that data-driven culture, improving efficiencies around reporting, having that trusted and reliable data is very key. And this obviously can help with company performance. I can look at cost analysis. I can look at risk mitigation. Again, ensuring that the company's performing in an optimum way. With tools as well, there's varying levels of tooling that can be used, right from like code to low code, no code. So again, depending on the skills and the knowledge that you have, whether you're coming from a SQL backend and want to make use of Fabric, or whether you're using, notebooks and Spark, in particular with Python, again, you've got all, supports all capabilities of skill within your organization. And lastly, but not leastly, is around, giving access to the data. So empowering those decisions around data, ensuring that we've got enhanced collaboration and innovation. So understanding that data and using that data is two key aspects of where data is provided to the business. This can obviously help, reduce costs. It can increase productivity, and that data literacy, which is very key. Understanding that data and using that data helps then become proactive in use of the data when it comes to company performance and insight. So just to sort of capture that, in terms of business value with Microsoft Fabric, it increases productivity. It helps with customer satisfaction in terms of, bringing data about your customers, whether that's online via call centers, whether that's email, sentiment analysis, understanding, trends and behaviors can obviously, provide a streamlined response back to customers, customer engagement, customer churn. All of these help with customer satisfaction and obviously, helps reduce costs around that as well. In terms of operational costs, Microsoft Fabric is a SaaS-based product, often using, say, something like Synapse, for instance, where that would likely be 2 or 3 times more expensive when using tools like dedicated SQL pools or data warehouse as an example. So again, you can reduce your operational costs within your Azure estate, and obviously this helps bring on return on investment, not just from company performance, but also from operationally using Microsoft Fabric. So we've seen about the sort of key points there around where business value can be driven from Microsoft Fabric in particular. So now we need to look at use cases and where we can start to use Microsoft Fabric. Now, I always call this like an ideation session. So it always starts with an idea. Learning about where the challenges are within the business. So we need to identify those potential use cases based on business drivers and challenges. We need to look at building a prioritized roadmap that aligns to these goals, and they have measurable outcomes so that we can measure success. And then we need to ideate ideas where it can help accelerate the growth of the business. So aligning a data strategy to your business strategy is one of the key aspects of driving success around data in your business. So looking at ideation and starting with those use cases, we can then start to map out the investment that's needed, the benefits of the proposed solution, and where the use cases can have the biggest impact in the business to help drive adoption and also help drive better outcomes for the business. So in terms of when looking at use cases and starting off, there's always 4 key principles that I adhere to around the ideation aspect. First one being governance. We obviously, again, we've reiterated several times now around the importance of trusted and reliable data. So having looking at the governance aspects that we need to put in place. What's our data quality like? Is this data usable? Do we have the right framework in place that our users understand the data? Having that vision and strategy alignment, so aligning to that business strategy. When we're looking for use cases, we need to make sure that they're aligned to business objectives and embedding data really at the very heart of that. And then underpinned with that is the people. It's, how do we use data currently? What do we need to change? How are our users going to use this data? And what training and support and adoption roadmap do they need in order to embrace this use case or embrace data within their department or business? And underpinned by that is the platform and architecture. So what data sources are we using? Where's this data coming from? How accurate is this data? Is this data readily available? How can we bring this data together? And what data do we need from around the business to support the use case in question? So by using those 4 key pillars, we start to really validate where those use cases can offer the biggest benefit against business value and implementation effort. Now, we've heard this morning around some of the challenges in the industry. Here's just several challenges that we've often seen around the various industries. You can probably see that the biggest one along all 4, a commonality around it, is generally around access to data or data quality or security. Those 3 challenges often come out on top. So in terms of like productivity, that's a big hindrance in terms of the business, because often where the data is not available, lots of manual or semi-manual processes are put in place to bring that data together. Because different departments do it in different ways, using different metrics, the trust of the data becomes askew in terms of trusting that data in the business when making informed decisions. So what we will look from in terms of use cases is, again, start to break them out a little bit more in terms of industry. But some of these, whilst they're segmented into industry, can sometimes also be agnostic as well. For instance, understanding your customer, that can go across various industries in particular. So that helps sort of understand and bringing that data together, whether that's omni-channel, whether that's bringing data from call center, email, feedback, third-party tooling, bringing that data together, buying behaviors as well, all 4 data sources in particular, bringing those in together to understand your customer, and maybe some supporting referencing data alongside that, where we can start to understand, our customers better, maybe provide them with targeted marketing. So again, going out of that sort of retail space, but also then providing our customers with personalized services. Dynamic pricing, for instance, comes into play. If there's an event coming on, we've seen it often where prices can be hiked when there is a supply and demand. So again, various use cases, and this gives you an idea of some of the use cases that we could look for and Fabric can support along the way using the various tooling that in particular Leon's mentioned this morning. When deciding on use cases, really the 4 key drivers: business value. So scoring that in terms of, does this align to your business objectives? How is it supporting the business strategy? What data is needed for that business strategy? But in terms of those use cases, let's look at the business value driver. We need that to be at number 5. It needs to be very clear in terms of the value that we are driving with data in support of the business strategy. We need to ensure that there's key results. So that let's not be vague around how we're measuring this. What's the ROI? How much does it cost? How much is it going to cost to implement? What are the expected benefits? How can we measure those benefits? Stakeholder accountability as well, starting with that working group, getting that exec sponsor, ensuring that there is accountability within the team that's supporting this initiative, but also the business. So having that sort of C-level exec, key stakeholder, but equally having that working group where different areas of the business can be accountable for different use cases and accountable for their part of delivering the project in question. And also making it very clear around implementation effort. How much does it cost? Whether that's operational, professional services, training, what is the overall implementation effort for that use case? Measuring that can then help understand where the value can be driven and obviously help shape the clear ROIs and key results. So just to reiterate again, just sort of breaking it out around data, key considerations as well, just to support that, and the business drivers. So technically, where's the data? How do I get access to that data, the data quality, and who owns that data? The infrastructure, so how do I connect my data sets together? What do I need to put in place to support that? Is there an infrastructure roadmap in place, i.e. is there modernization programs going on, ERP upgrades, etc.? Data governance, what processes do we have in place to get today? How do we ensure that our data is accurate? How do we ensure that there's the right security processes in place, and are we adhering to the compliance of the regulatory markets or our industry that we need to support? From the business side, really it's people and culture. What's the key users that we're targeting with this use case? What's their data literacy like, their data maturity? Are they using tools like Power BI, or are they still using manual exports in Excel? What have we got to do that change management? How can we support that business value as well? So does that, and again, reiterate, how does it align to that company strategy? And in terms of the business processes that we're driving with this use case, what's the impact of those processes? What's the key considerations around that process? I.e., is it governance? Is it access to data? What's the current challenges around that? And what we really want to get to is look to have a use case prioritization. So in an ideation session, we ideate several ideas in terms of, key aspects. And what generally happens is, as we start to mark them on the board, we start to see a clear trend. So the ones that we've got boxed up here are very much what I would call the key priorities, the key focus for the business. There's very little or low implementation effort to get them started. And from a high business value, they align very much to the business strategy that's in place from the overall business. So, in this example, inventory management and customer insights, understanding your stock, making sure that you're not holding too much stock, and that you've got the right processes in place to ensure efficient stock management, but also around customer insights as an example. So these are obviously two, made up use cases that I've done for this talk today, but you can clearly see we've got a clear set of use cases that we can start to align to, and then prioritize them in an order that's going to serve the business. So obviously we don't do all the use cases at once. We prioritize them, show value, pilot the first one, and then iteratively build out. In terms of this recapping around use cases, start with that working group, have that ideation session, and I'll come on to that at the end around how we can get started with that. And obviously in terms of that, building out that priority and that roadmap, that plan of how we're going to drive use cases, and in particular around use cases, let's look at data governance, business value, and people and culture as the three key pillars really to sort of drive successful implementations of use cases. So just to sort of conclude in terms of the use cases, we then need to start to drive this into our data strategy. So how does Microsoft Fabric embed into your data strategy? The first bit is to understand where as a business you are in terms of the data maturity. So from Gartner, and you might have seen many others of these, this is very much a sort of 5-tier stage of data maturity, starting on the left where there's no data strategy, data is used sporadically, maybe for operational reporting, all the way through to optimize at the top level, in where data is very key, it's centralized, you're using predictive analytics, maybe AI. We're looking at AI now, and we're improving processes around AI. More often than when we're chatting to customers, they're very much maybe in the roundabout the stage 2. Some of them might have started to look at stage 3, but more often than not, we see a lot of challenges around siloed data. That whole question around IT being consumed is more IT centric, having access to data, not really, the data isn't trusted by the business. Stage 3, they've started to have a data warehouse put in place that serves some reports, some governance around that, and there is access to data, but again, there's limitations to the data that they've got. There might be, we have data from the data warehouse, but we also have, Google Analytics that we need to ingest. We do a Power BI report on the side and bring that data together. So again, that's sort of where the understanding of stage 2 and stage 3 are. Leon, just whilst you're there, from your perspective, what do you see around data maturity in the wider industries?
It's interesting because I've seen a kind of a step change in terms of the motivators people have in terms of, so I do these kind of in a morning migration workshops, and the kind of motivator has gone from, I've got some VMs that I now want to run in Azure, which was kind of a fairly traditional paradigm, a bit close-minded, but that's a traditional paradigm. But things now, more and more, the motivation for change is because people are looking to maximize their use of data. So they're trying to get from kind of like stage 2 to stage 3. I can bring that to life with an example. I was working with a veterinary practice in the West Country, three branch veterinary practice, but a good catchment area, and they would get blood test results, medical data that come through, but it was all contained within a PDF. So built a lightweight solution that would have an AI read the PDF, identify who it's for, and route the message accordingly, because it would all just come into a generic mailbox. Fairly noddy solution. But in discussions about their broader strategy, it became obvious actually there were so many other opportunities. So starting to feed that data into a data lake, so they were very much at that stage 2 kind of level, but they were looking to be much more innovative with their data. So they started to extract and store that data and do analytics against the blood results. They get timestamps on when blood tests were sent and when the results were received. They could understand the cost and billing implementation of that. So they could then start to understand when they are providing estimates to customers in terms of the cost of care for animals, they could be more accurate with that because they had the data and they had all that historical data. They always had loads of data on sort of spreadsheets and what have you that was kind of ad hoc. And by centralizing all that data and providing the ability to do insights, they managed to move from that stage 2 to stage 3. And as they go forward, they're looking to do even more and move towards that more sort of governed mindset to bring in self-service. And I can see there's a bunch of questions coming in about self-service, and we'll touch on that in a second. So yeah, very much I'm seeing a step change in terms of organizations. Instead of my hardware's end of life and I just need a different sort of hosting environment, which is kind of like a legacy kind of mindset. Now it's all about, I want to maximize the value of my data because I know today I'm not, and they're looking to move to a cloud platform to be able to do that, whether that be through Fabric, Databricks, or whatever.
Thank you, Leon. No, that was very useful. It's always good to bring that to life, especially around the data maturity, where we see different organizations on their journey of increasing their maturity. So in terms of the data strategy itself, I am conscious of time, so I'm going to sort of keep this quite concise. But in terms of the strategy, starting off, number 1, business strategy and goals, understanding how those data initiatives align to the business strategy, understanding those business processes within that strategy. So what are the current challenges faced by the business, whether that's access to data, maybe it might be that from part of the business growth is to acquire new businesses. And by that, you start to have other challenges, ways of working, trying to embed that together, data integration, centralized repository for data across different entities within the business. Again, understanding those pain points, those processes, and where the drivers are to align to those business goals. Number 3, again, sort of as I sort of mentioned earlier around use cases, it's that technology, process, and people. Those 3 key pillars are underpinned in a data and AI strategy. So from a data strategy, what's the technology, what's the roadmap, what's the processes, the governance, the tooling, the definitions that we're using, and then the people. What's the adoption, the data literacy, the maturity in terms of getting the people using the tools and the technologies embedded in those different processes to then obviously make a difference and then support that business strategy and overall objective of those use cases. In terms of the high level approach here at Cloud Direct, it all starts with the vision. So whether that's an ideation session, a data strategy, an assessment, or an AI readiness, understanding what it is that we want to do. And then from there, we prioritize, look to prioritize use cases. And then from there, we do discovery around those use cases, understanding the data, the success criteria, the business benefits, building out that high level conceptual model, then going into that technical design, embedding data governance within that, using an iterative agile approach, building out in different what we call milestones, iteratively and inclusive of adoption. So making sure that underpinned within that we have the adoption aspect, and that is having things like drop-in clinics, that's doing informal or formal training as part of the approach to ensure that end users have access to the tools, understand how to use the tools, and also understand the data so they can make meaningful analysis of that data, and as such start to embed success of those use cases. Once we've had the platform live, and obviously we need to operationalize it, that can be through managed service, that could be a target operating model internally or shared target operating model, and again having that advisory around the outside. Maybe it might be strategic advice in terms of optimizing, or technical advice and guidance to ensure that the platform is operating in a optimum way. I think Leon mentioned this really well earlier on around data and AI. So as part of the strategy, the sort of key aspects from technology will be data, and it will be AI. Well, AI needs data to fundamentally be that fuel. So in terms of how we get good data, making sure we've got the right platform, the right management, the right accuracy around data, the right guardrails, so we have the accessibility of data, the availability of data, and that it's integrated into a solution like Fabric. And then on the right-hand side, we start to look at AI, making sure we've got a working group that supports the data and AI initiatives. We're underpinned by responsible AI, ensuring that we're using it responsibly and safely. The change management, the processes, embedding that learning process, that platform of adoption. So we have training, we have self-service capabilities, and then we have that trust and transparency of understanding the data, but also the transparency of where it's come from, which instills the trust. So where we have accurate and reliable data, that also then feeds success on the AI side in terms of getting more meaningful outcomes and able to get the best benefits of AI. High-level challenges that we might face along the journey in terms of strategy and implementing data initiatives. Start with change management, so communication, engagement, and training and support. So changing processes, changing ways of working, engaging with those stakeholders. So it's having that clear communication path from the top down, that exact key stakeholder sponsorship, driving and supporting and communicating the value of this change, working with those stakeholders. So ideation sessions are very good in this aspect, understanding what's important to them, then mapping that out to the importance of the vision of the company. Mentioned a lot about data quality today, rubbish in, rubbish out. Again, one of the biggest challenges we see is around governance, having those solid foundations where we can build on a data estate that holds reliable, accurate data, underpinned by ownership and accountability as well. So who is owning these data assets? Who's responsible for the accuracy and the input and the validation of this data coming in from, whether it's key sources, line of business applications, or whether it's data coming in? Who's responsible for that data and having ownership to ensure that the data is being entered and accurately validated to ensure that it successfully can be used for downstream activities like reporting, machine learning, AI, etc. And then the adoption piece. So having that understanding of where data is used currently, the tooling, the readiness, and the adoption roadmap that we need to look in, and build out. So by prioritizing those use cases, we can underpin adoption. Mentioned before around drop-in clinics, key like technical walkthroughs, training, and those key aspects can really help drive the adoption, and that the tools, the platform get utilized. And then having that open feedback as well. So getting feedback from stakeholders. Those drop-in clinics are very key. Understanding what is and what isn't working. Bringing those users along the journey as well. So when there's a pilot or key deliverables, bringing them on, showcasing, getting feedback, and iteratively enhancing and optimizing as the development of those use cases goes through its life cycle. In terms of key considerations, very much business value, governance, talent, skills, and innovation. And I've probably covered a lot of this already, so really just sort of keep it sort of concise on this one. But really, alignment to the business drivers, get those key measurable outcomes, make sure that your data is trusted, reliable, and ready to be used for data and AI use cases. Understand from a talent and skills, get that working group, have that ownership that will then drive that data literacy program, the skills readiness, what training and upskilling is needed. And then on the right hand side, the innovation, having those defined use cases, the modernization roadmap, iteratively enhance. Don't start big bang, start small. Tools like AI, start with a proof of value, understand if the concept can work for your use case and your business in the way that you're expecting it, and looking at the feedback from that cycle, evaluating, enhancing, and then obviously looping back to a stage where you can get ready to productionize. In terms of obviously a roadmap and validation, define those strategic goals, get that executive sponsorship in at the very heart. They're the ones that will be the evangelists in terms of driving that change into the business, integrating data and AI into those core processes as well. So if there's a process, where can data be used? What data is being captured? How can we use that data more efficiently and effectively in the business? And then obviously always monitor and communicate the impact that these changes are having to the business. So by implementing a data warehouse, we have managed to, save X time processing data. We've got more data availability for insight. Company performance has been impacted by X. Having those measurables in place to then, support that success and communication, and also drive adoption as well. Really, just like I say, defining those requirements, identifying those data sources, and aligning that strategy with the organizational strategy are three key aspects when designing and developing out a data strategy for your business. So making sure that it really does align to your business goals, because where it aligns to business goals is business focus, which means that you're likely to get successful projects and also a better return on investment. I've included a very high level data strategy. This is a sample data strategy. So again, for your business, it might look slightly different, but for this one in particular, of the phases that we've looked at around vision and innovation, systems architecture, process and governance, and readiness and culture, it gives you an understanding of the different phases that may come into play to support a wider data roadmap, not just with Fabric, but equally around supporting architecture tools like integrations, line of business, modernization, as an example, bringing AI. So how does it all come together? Because there's many working parts. This just helps give a flavor of an example of what a data strategy could look like for your business. And then in terms of a high level roadmap, how does that look like? Very much around a high level roadmap. Again, this is very much a concept one. It can change for your business in particular, but just gives you an idea of how you go through the life cycle of implementing data and AI projects into your business. From a funding perspective, there is funding available with Azure Innovate. So whether you're undertaking an analytics project, so again, there's funding pots available for what they call proof of value. And then there's, again, for delivery, there's analytics deployment funding pots available. So again, we can help you with that in terms of understanding what funding is available. So again, leveraging some of that to support the cost of implementation of Microsoft Fabric. Should you be looking at AI? Again, there's similar pots around there. So you're not tied to one pot. If you're doing a data project and you're also doing an AI project, you could be eligible for both pots dependent on criteria. So again, it's worth coming and having a chat with us. We can help support that conversation should the need arise. Really just sort of summarizing here around the key steps to ensure success. Start with that working group. Look and define a strategy that aligns to the business strategy. So to bring together the data and the tech strategy to align to the business strategy. Understand the readiness of the business. So do an assessment of the as is, the target, and ensuring you understand the gap fit analysis of what comes out from that assessment of what needs to be improved to ensure success. Ideate. So look at use cases, bring ideas to a page, map them, and then score them accordingly so it aligns to that strategy at point 2. And then look to implement Microsoft Fabric or subsequent tooling like AI, ensuring that you've got the right governance in place, the technologies to support those initiatives, and then monitor and adopt and innovate. so then start to productionize and grow and scale with data and AI. So in terms of concluding this session, and thank you very much for your time today, in terms of how we at Cloud Direct can help, key pillars around data strategy, ideation, data platform, data analytics, AI, and managed service. So right the way from the very beginning, if you're looking at your data strategy and your ideating use cases, all the way through to supporting from a managed service and delivering those data and AI projects. So if this is something that you would like to get in touch with, in particular, looking to get started with the Microsoft Fabric workshop, so the ideation session in particular, feel free to get in touch at sales@clouddirect.net. Obviously, would look to run a session with yourselves. We'll go through what we spoke about earlier around that ideation, helping to identify those use cases, help build that prioritized roadmap based on business value, bring those ideas to a page, and then really get an understanding of the benefits and the proposed use cases to help build a business case. That's everything from me. Leon, I'll happily bring you back to the stage, and if you've got any questions or any closing
Actually, I don't have questions, but the audience do, a plethora of them. So I'll try to rattle through them quick and fast, because I know that we're running fraction over. So one was around funding. I think you've covered that. There is plenty of funding available, and multiple pots available. We're I think we're the third highest ranked in Europe in terms of securing funding for clients. So yes, there absolutely is for data programs, for AI programs, absolutely funding available. I would start off with one of those workshops around that data and innovation piece to bring your business context to that, so we can develop the best opportunities for you. The next one is there a business case or an argument for using Fabric alongside Databricks? Now, I'll let you jump in on this, but my view is Databricks is an incredibly robust platform that goes so far, but there is business value that it doesn't do on the end in terms of that sort of analytics, visualization, automation piece. So yes, I think there is, but it obviously depends on your business strategy and how it aligns, whether those elements are going to deliver business value. What's your view, Dan?
Yeah, very similar to yours. I think, we've come across where Databricks is a very mature product. Fabric, I think the start and the end, in particular, the One Lake is a bit of a game changer in something that Databricks doesn't have. So bringing that data into a centralized repository, then embedding Databricks, tooling and processes within that is often used. So the two, Fabric and Databricks, can be used in conjunction, and we have seen that as a typical architecture pattern. And that also does come down to preference and maturity of the organization, i.e., we're already using Databricks, but we want to leverage some of the capabilities of Microsoft Fabric, in particular, like you mentioned, the self-service capabilities around there, or we want to, bring that data together, utilize something like a One Lake, bring in some of the functionality around mirroring and shortcuts to really, get access to all that data, and then use tools like Databricks to process that and serve that out using Lakehouse, and then obviously pushing that data via Power BI as a reporting platform. So absolutely, there is synergy between the two, but again, it does come down to preference and maturity. If you're looking for a low-code aspect, often for Microsoft Fabric, with Data Factory, Synapse pipelines, and the Copilot integration with an F64 license or above, can really help sort of users that don't maybe necessarily have a higher maturity than some that are using existing Databricks today.
No, I completely agree with that. And you mentioned self-service around Power BI. There's a question around that, and they'd like a bit more detail. Now, we can cover that in more detail. We'll go into the nuts and bolts. But my view is there is the tiered licensing model that allows different users to consume Power BI in different ways. So if you are more of a data-centric person and your role necessitates it, you can be able to chat with your data with the Copilot capabilities and deliver a high-value dashboard. You might be other users who just have a premium license, a pro license, and they may be able to gain access to data and customize what they want and produce their own reports. So yes, depending on your licensing model and how you tier them and how you consume them, and obviously you've just got published reports that you can go and disseminate that people consume. Do you have anything to jump in on that?
Not too much, other than I think licensing model within Microsoft Fabric. There's a few ways to play this. streamline it and make it very simple for this session. Anyway, whoever's got the question, I'm more than happy to tackle offline in a bit more detail. But F64 license, everyone can get access, but you will need a Power BI Pro license to create content. And should you be on a Fabric SKU less than F64, then yes, you will need Power BI licenses for everyone to read and consume that. But also, I suppose the simplest matter is all developers that are creating reports will need a Power BI Pro license. Those are just consuming F64 or above will have a consumer license. I believe that we've not probably going to be able to get to all the questions that we've got, and there's quite a few more that we haven't. So I do apologize for that. So if there is questions that we've not been able to get to, we're more than happy to follow up, with an email to all attendees. So I suppose just to conclude, Leon, is there any closing statement from yourself?
No, I would just encourage people to go and look at their business strategy and think about and qualify what it is they want to achieve, and then come to one of our Fabric workshops. Bring your agenda, bring your business context, and help us go and expand on those. And we can go and identify the best routes, the pathways for you to be able to, whether it's consuming funding, what the solutions might look like, how it can best serve your business needs, and then you've got a whole tailored set of solutions. So yeah, think about your needs, think about your business context. It's one of the fastest growing things, and trust me, your competitors are doing it. I am inundated with demand for people that are looking to utilize AI, building off the data project that they do on Fabric. So that's it from me.
Brilliant. And that's everything from me, I guess. Thank you, Leon, for your time. It's been very good to do these sessions again with you. And then thank you, everyone, for attending this session, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.